Thank you very much. So, who here, as a child, wished they could fly? That's it. Still do, exactly. It's a pretty common wish. People have always been captivated by the idea of flight and flying. And when you combine that with the remarkable human ingenuity, we've come up with countless ways of getting into the sky, dating back to the myth of Icarus, where the idea was to strap wings to your arms made of wax and feathers. Not so sure about that one. Even the great Leonardo da Vinci had a crack with the aerial screw. Now, unfortunately, neither of these actually worked, but they kind of paved the way for modern aircraft. You know, as we've learnt more about flight, we've become better at building contraptions to get us into the sky. And these occur at different scales. You know, at the local scale, helicopters are essential to our emergency services and search and rescue. And then moving further afield, aeroplanes are wonderful at connecting people who live in different cities and countries and even continents. And at the most vast, expansive end, we have spacecraft that help us explore and unlock the mysteries of the universe. Interestingly, it is perhaps at the local scale that it is least well served by conventional aircraft. Who here flew to this venue in a helicopter? Nobody? I mean, that's the kind of indication that we really don't use aircraft at the local scale very often. What you see here on the screen on the left-hand side is the world's largest traffic jam. Now, I know Sydney has bad traffic, and it sucks to be stuck in traffic for an hour or two. The world's largest traffic jam in China, people were stuck in that for 2 weeks. They had bicycles delivering food and water, and I'm guessing toilet paper, to people who were stuck in their cars for literally weeks. This is ridiculous. And when it comes to moving large objects around, we kind of don't really do that through the air. There are pretty serious constraints on how big and heavy things are in terms of moving them around. So instead, we put them on trucks, and, well, there are problems with that as well. So honestly, when it comes to moving around in the local scale, we're pretty much just stuck on the ground. Until now. What if there was a new type of aircraft that could solve all of these challenges? That's exactly what we're doing at Burl Aerospace. And we've created something that's kind of a bit like a love child between a helicopter and an aeroplane, and then you drop the body. And it's a little bit hard to explain, so we've made a video for you. What you see here on the screen is something we call a free spinning wing, and that'll make a bit more sense in a moment. The principle that it uses is actually similar to that of a boomerang, which is the world's oldest non-ballistic flying object. Think of it like a straight boomerang that's got propellers on it to help it spin. That's basically the idea. Now, the remarkable thing about this is, as you'll see in a moment, when it gets into the clear space, the tilt rotors will tilt down. That creates a torque couple, which gets it spinning. And so as it spins, it creates lift. The really cool thing about rotorcraft is the larger the radius, the bigger it is, the more lift it generates. This is the biggest one we've done the modelling on so far, and this was done at the request of DARPA. For people who don't know DARPA, that's Defence Advanced Research Projects Agency in the United States Department of Defence, or Department of War it might now be called. These guys have been funding all of the cool innovations for like 70 odd years. So the internet, handheld mobile phones, computers, all this stuff was ultimately funded at some point by DARPA. DARPA came to us. Well, actually, I went to DARPA and said, hey, we've got this cool tech. And they were like, that is really cool. We've never seen anything like that. And we went, yes, thank you. And they said, it looks like it's a simple design that would scale. And we were like, yeah, we reckon it can. And they said, can you lift 40 tons? And we went, that's a lot. The world's heaviest, biggest helicopter it's a Russian Mi-26. It can lift 20 tons. So they said, here's your challenge. We want you to lift 40 tons. You can only use existing parts, so no magical, miraculous equipment that doesn't exist yet. So COTS, existing parts, 40 tons, and ideally cost less than $30 million. So, haha, good luck. luckily, I work with an absolute genius as the inventor, and so I went to my genius, Pauline, and said, "Genius, can we do this?" She went away and mathed it for like 3 weeks, 4 weeks of just crazy calculations and came back and said, "Turns out, yes, we can." DARPA were like, "Really?" So they validated it and were like, "Cool, on paper, this works." Now, we've also built smaller scale. So that's the ultra heavy lift scale, and I'm going to talk about more about the problems it solves in a moment. But we've also built one that's a smaller scale for like basically moving people around. And we fold up the primary rotor so that you can actually take off and land from pretty much a double car park. So if you've got a double garage, we could put it on your driveway. So that means, you know, here in Sydney, you could get up, walk out of your house, jump into one of these craft, fly to Canberra, have a meeting, less than an hour, and fly back. It's point-to-point aerial transportation. At the moment, all aerial transportation is hub to hub. Even the new flying cars that are coming are still hub to hub. You have to go to a hub, the hub being a heliport, an airport, something like that. There is no point-to-point aerial transportation. That's why no one flew here today. We're trying to change that with that scale. We've also got one that fits into a backpack and can be used for medical evacuations. So there's a whole range of scales. This is a platform technology. We can solve problems in all sorts of ways that nobody else can. So I'm going to focus on the heavy lift one today and take you through some of the problems. And the first one is what I like to call moving bloody heavy things. Wind turbines are bloody heavy things. The big ones are over 100 meters long and weigh over 20 tons. So, you know, when they're on trucks moving around, bad things happen. We could pick them up from the ships and deliver them to the site directly, and we could even potentially help with the installation because they have to get cranes in there to build other cranes to help assemble these things. It's like a big problem. I'd like to move Crighton's trucks with one of ours. The interesting thing with the giant one you saw spinning is that we could actually connect two of them through the central point. And that way we have a giant coaxial drone basically, they're remote piloted, and we could potentially lift 80 tons. Which takes us to the next use case, which is the one Defence is very interested in, called ship to shore. Now, there are no helicopters that can pick up a tank. Does anyone know how much an M1 Abrams tank weighs? It's about 70 tons. Now, on paper, we could actually pick one up off the ship and deliver it to shore. So that's the bottleneck that Defence has when it comes to ship to shore logistics. And finally, bushfires. We all know that bushfires are getting worse due to climate change, and the experts have told us we do not have enough heavy lift aircraft to help combat the increasing intensity of bushfires that we're all facing. So, and that's not just an Australian problem. We've seen, you know, across the US and Canada and all over the world, like bushfires are getting worse. We need to be able to put them out. And in Australia, the heavy lift, the fire bombers we see, they carry 15 tons of either water or flame retardant. We can carry 40. So we have a fleet of these. It would be a game changer when it came to fighting fires and also generally disaster recovery response with floods. We can get equipment, bulldozers to where it's needed. This isn't all a dream. This is, it may sound too good to be true, but we've been building these things now for a few years. This is our first proof of concept that flew last year that demonstrates that yes, you can actually take off as a drone, convert to the rotor, start spinning, and off you go. So this was demonstrated last year, and in the interest of time, we've just started POC2, which is our second proof of concept. This thing's 2.5 meters, so more than double the size, and we've started testing this week. It's got an azimuth heading system, which helps us understand which way it's facing, because when the entire aircraft's spinning, we've had to invent an entire new control system to manage it. So all of this stuff now has been proven to work on the bench. We've started field testing, and in the next few months, we'll basically demonstrate to everybody this is entirely possible. But we need help scaling. Like, we've built small ones, building larger ones is expensive, and we'd love to hear from anyone who thinks they can help us with that. Thank you very much.